the Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
This show is brought to you by jasonhartman.com. When it comes to investing, you need a balanced portfolio: gold, silver, and real estate. Jason is a master at helping you build a real estate portfolio that throws off positive cash flow, gives you incredible tax benefits, and a high return on investment. Go to jasonhartman.com. That's Jason, HARTMAN.com. You are listening to the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1590 WPSL. So terror is back, and U.S. foreign policy has shifted to center stage again. And we're faced with the question of religion, terror, and error, which just happens to be the name of my next guest's book, Dr. Robert Johnston. Dr. Johnston, welcome to the Financial Survival Network.
It's good to be with you. First name's Douglas, by the way.
Hey, okay, Douglas, thank you. And look, we're in this situation here where people's attention span, where 1 minute you're worried about the economy, the next minute you're worried about terrorism and foreign affairs, and really wherever your attention is riveted at the moment really doesn't matter, because there's important issues and challenges that we're facing in the foreign relations terror-related arena, isn't there?
There is indeed.
And what do you think is the biggest challenge that we're facing here?
I think one of the bigger challenges that the United States is facing is the fact that we've so compartmentalized religion for such a long time that we simply don't know how to deal with the religious imperatives that permeate today's geopolitical landscape. And it's easily rectified if there were the determination to do so. But right now, the political ambiguities surrounding separation of church and state are such that it often intimidates our political and military leaders from dealing with the religious dimensions of the threats that they're facing.
Yeah, and these threats, some of them are religious in nature, aren't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how do you reconcile somebody in the administration who refuses to put a name on the terrorism, won't say it's Islamic or Muslim-based, and they call them man-made events or acts of terror rather than terrorism, which there's a big difference between? I mean, this political correctness can dig us all an early grave, can't it?
Well, that's exactly right. And one of the realities out there is that just about every conflict in the world is about political power and the distribution of resources. And very few, maybe the Middle East is one exception, do you find that religion is really part of the cause of the conflict. But whether it is or it isn't, it oftentimes gets co-opted by power politics. It becomes a mobilizing vehicle, a badge of identity. And when that takes place, then things get very complicated very quickly. And that's where our inability to deal with this religious dimension hurts us, because we cede the high ground to the extremists who claim to have it right when in fact they don't. And we just need to sort of change the playing field, and so that we can have an opportunity to respond and to make our own points, which I think in the final analysis are much more acceptable to most people in the world than what you find from the extremists.
Yeah, well, one problem is that there's not a historical perspective on this battle that's being fought right now. Pretty much history's been swept under the rug, and we just look at it today like as if it just started, without understanding how we got to where we are today. And how did we get to where we are today as far as religion and terror and all of that?
Well, I think it's for really a matter of neglect on our part. For the most part, we've just been surprised too many times. We've been on the receiving end of the law of unintended consequences because we really haven't known what's going on, haven't understood the religious dynamics that are taking place. So it's when you look back in history, you find that Islam, which enjoyed sort of superpower status for almost a millennium, has been gradually backed into a corner over time under the influence of colonialism and just Western modernization and what have you. And so many aspects of it have sort of, the world has passed it by. Back when Sharia was actually implemented, it was a very liberalizing influence in the world at the time. But at this point in time, the UN Declaration on Human Rights and things like that have passed it by. So it's time for a reformation within Islam. You've got a bit of a civil war going on as it is, which complicates things between the Shia and the Sunni. But we in the United States just need to be much more adept at handling these things. And quite frankly, all it would take is for the president to task his Justice Department with making the case for why religious engagement should be a component of U.S. foreign policy, and then get strong, top-level bipartisan endorsement from the Hill, and then you would open up all the creative energies and the intellectual capabilities of our leaders to be able to deal with these things. But right now, they're just afraid to do it because it's just like whether it's industry or government, when they hear the word religion, they head for the hills because they're fearful of being accused of favoring one faith tradition over another.
I keep hearing that many people believe that the best investments are sold by large investment houses. But how many people do you know who got rich in the stock market? I thought so. Jason Hartman has helped thousands of people create real wealth with real estate. He has over 20 years experience, and his company provides the complete solution for real estate investors. Isn't it time you acquired property in diverse, growing markets nationwide for as little as $15,000 down? Don't let inflation destroy the value of your savings, stocks, or bonds. Real estate is the one investment that allows you to profit from inflation. For cash flow and capital appreciation, there's nothing else like it. Make your money work as hard as you do by building an income property empire. Go to www.jasonhartman.com and tell him Kerry sent you. Well, are we in a religious war with Islam now?
Well, I wouldn't call it a religious war. I would say we're in a war with extremists who are trying to capitalize on perversions of what their religious scriptures say, but I would not characterize it as a war with Islam. And I'm not saying that out of political correctness. I'm just saying it out of accuracy. I think we fall into the trap. Islamophobia is becoming a real concern here in the States, and I think there's understandable reasons for it. But by the same token, most of the people who are proponents of it don't really have a full appreciation for what's going on.
Yeah, and that's where the historical perspective comes in as well, because in the United States, we tend to view Islam as a monolithic religion, and in fact, there are sects, there are rivalries, and all sorts of divisions among this religion. It's hardly a monolith, is it?
No, that's right. No more than Christianity is. I mean, you not only have Catholics and Orthodox and Protestants, but you have, more variations of Protestantism than you can count. When you talk about history, you're absolutely right. I mean, our center was on the ground in Pakistan for about 7 years, reforming the madrasas, the religious schools that gave birth to the Taliban and all. It's very dicey stuff, but if you look at our accounts in the media about madrasas, all you conclude is these are seedbeds of terrorism, and almost no one is mindful of the illustrious history of these schools. Back in the Middle Ages through the 16th century, they were without peer as institutions of higher learning in the world at the time, it was only European exposure to them that gave birth to our own university system in the West. And you would be astounded at how many of our traditions and mores of academe, ranging from, the mortarboards and tassels you wear at graduation to funding a chair in a given discipline, and the list goes on, all came out of the madrasas. They were the model, but nobody in the West has any inkling that that's so.
Yeah, and that's the problem when you stop teaching history in the schools. You really deprive people of the perspective and the facts necessary to understand what's really going on at this particular moment. So it's really a flaw kind of in the U.S., both philosophical and from a teaching perspective as well. And I guess, some of it is the winners write history, but also that period of time when Islam was evolving and the values of the religion, there's so many of you not aware of and not conscious of it, like you referred to, of that it being a place of incredible learning and progress.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that until we can see our way clear to getting a more sophisticated understanding of other worldviews, and particularly, I'm a strong proponent of, I think every high school student in America ought to be required to take a course in comparative religions just to understand, how the world works, what these other people think, how does religion inform their worldviews and political aspirations. But we're pretty clueless, frankly, and there's so much to be done to get to a point where we can handle it.
Yep, I know, and we just have to kind of move ahead, rededicate ourselves to getting the truth out there. So, Doug, if people want to buy your book, where should they go?
Sure. It's the title of it's Religion, Terror, and Error, and the subtext is U.S. foreign policy and the challenge of spiritual engagement. But they can purchase it off our website. By the way, it won the Book of the Year award. It placed first in political science and third in religion. So it's a pretty interesting read, I think. But our website is www.icrd, International Center for Religion and Diplomacy.org. So icrd.org is the way to get there.
Well, Douglas, thanks so much for coming on the Financial Survival Network, for really giving us some knowledge and insight into what's really going on here. I think we got to stop doubting ourselves, find the historical perspective to get the right perspective on exactly what we are up against and what's going on today. So thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck on the book.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and thank you for the opportunity.
This show is brought to you by JasonHartman.com. I'm looking into real estate investing now. Probably not a bad idea for you as well. Go to JasonHartman.com, Jason, HartMan.com, and tell him Kerry sent you.